The next attribute we're going to create is CD, which we're going to use as color data to eventually drive the parameter of a shader to be able to change the shader values per instance when we render. A very, very powerful technique in here. So what we're going to do is make another point VOP. I'm going to call this create CD, wire that into our instance, make it green. Let's go inside here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a modulo VOP node, the exact same thing we just did in code in the attribute wrangle, and we're going to wire this in to the ID, and I'm going to make this divisor be 4. So we'll get a 0, 2, or 3 based on whatever the ID number is, because we're going to use that to drive a switch. We're going to have 4 different input colors, and whatever this modulo result is based on the ID number, it'll switch to that color. So I'm going to make a parameter. That parameter is going to be a color. I'm going to call this color 1, and then its label will be color 1. Okay, so now I'm going to copy and paste this. Okay, so for the second one, we're going to call it color 2. And then its label will be color 2. Its third one, name will be color 3. Label will be color 3. And then the fourth one is color 4. And its label will be color 4. Okay, so let's wire in the results here. So we're going to have our 4 different manually created colors, but then randomly assigned, pseudo randomly assigned with this ID and modulo setup. Okay, so now what we want to do is what we've been doing before as well. We'll use a color correction VOP with some, noisy values going into the hue shifting and value just to even create some more color variation. So we basically have 4 base colors we set, but then each one will be slightly different just to get some more random variation for relative free. So we will make a color correction VOP, connect it between the switch and the CD output of the whole geometry VOP. Off the ID pin, I'm going to do what I did before, where I do an add constant, because we want 2 different values here, one for shift and one for value, and we want them both generated off this same ID. So if I go to add constant, this time I'll just add some random values off this integer, and then feed each of these to a random. In effect, we'll just get 2 different random values off the same incoming value by just offsetting them randomly a little bit. Okay. So now, like we've done before, we're going to do a fit range, and this first one will be for the hue shift. So we're going to shift the values from 0 to 1 to negative 0.05 to 0.02. Very similar to what we've done before, just tiny little shift just to get some variation. Now I'm going to copy and paste this down here, wire this into here, and we're going to have this be the shift for the value of the color correction node, and we'll go, let's do 0.02 and 1. We'll make some of them really dark and some of them the value they are. Okay, so now I'll wire our top fit into shift and our bottom fit into value. And now we have built the sort of just inner workings of our color creation system for this project. But what we need to do now is actually assign the colors, because we have our color parameters here, but they're all black. If I went here, boom, they're all black. So these are the values I want to use. Color 1 will be 0, 0.45, 0.9. Color 2 is going to be 0.3, 0.55, and 0.8. Color 3 is going to be 0.50, 0.5. And then color 4 here is going to be 0.5, 0.16, 0.32. Just some different, light blues and magentas. Okay, and so now let's look at this. Let's play it back. And now we can see that we have some nice colors on our object, and they're all based on these 4 colors that we have determined. And then there's some slight subtle hue and variations even beyond that. So it's a great way to basically set the color tone, but then be able to get more variation. Cool. So we are getting close here in terms of all the attributes we need to set up. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to set up a material SOP that basically bakes some more point attributes in for our instancing to point to the actual shader path, and then be able to take this color data we just created and take that and apply that to shader data parameters that will actually be able to modify the shader per particle per instance.